I have two stories for you today. CNN is saying that doing your own research is actually hurting the US pandemic response. And then we have the New York Times saying critical thinking is actually hurting the whole battle against misinformation. I'm going to show you these two articles, and then I'm going to show you how I think much of what they're saying is correct. And then a lot of what they're saying is skewed, ergo full of shit. So, smash that like button, comment below, subscribe to the channel please, share the video out far and wide, and get ready to take this microdose of infinity. Welcome back to Waking Infinity News. I'm your host, Ben Joseph Stewart. This is going to be a microdose, two short stories for you. I already shared it with you, and the bottom line is every single week I bring something to you that is trending, current affairs, that's what news is, and also curated for you, valuable, something that could potentially help you at home, what you're looking for, plus what you may not realize that you need. So you may not want it, but you might need it. That's the whole thing about news. I've never been a news guy, and I figured it could be done better. How? By being more relatable, being more curated for a niche audience that is also mystical, artistic, inspired, totally cool with being woo-woo and pseudoscience and whatever. To me, I think if you're coming to listen to the news but you get bored or it's monotonous and the way that somebody is giving you the news is just amplifying your nervous system or amplifying a certain state that over time becomes toxic to your system, then what? Then you might want something new. So on this news show, I try to give you things that are new in the world as well as new coming from me, coming from different places. So you might know from me that usually if you look back on all the Waking Infinities, I will show a news article, and then I'll also show you how they're not even really reporting on this very well. So I actually took something from CNN, a news station that I've found very abrasive and annoying in the past. New York Times, same, even though I subscribe to both of them. And with both of them, I'm going to show you these articles that they have talking about doing your own research and critical thinking. And I first want to lead with, I think what they're saying has a lot of merit. And we can't discount that even after I tell you that I think that a lot of what they're saying is skewed, not just in a left-right angle, but also in the direction of we need to be saved by the system. That the top-down system, the hierarchy, really needs to save us from ourselves because our form of critical thinking and our form of doing our own research is not good enough. There is a best practices, there's a science to it, and we don't know it. The sanctioned authority knows it. So that's usually the kind of Ben Stewart you get from me. But I'm going to hop into these two articles right away and show you a lot of what I think is actually correct about what they're reporting on. Here's the CNN article from CNN Business that is titled, "These 4 words are helping spread vaccine misinformation." So here it goes on to say 4 little words, do your own research, are hurting the US pandemic response. CNN's chief media correspondent Brian Stelter said on a show called Reliable Sources. Personalities from Nicki Minaj to Sean Hannity continue to promote the idea. Minaj helped raise doubts about COVID-19 vaccines on Twitter last week, claiming she would only get the shot once she'd done enough research. It may seem like a reasonable, even positive attitude, and it is a favored talking point echoed by many right-wing media sources. Now, I have a sneaky suspicion that CNN does not like right-wing media. All right. Aside from partisan media, because we know that they have that slant, so they're always trying to attack the other side. So we can see straight through that. What else can we see? Well, they're using Nicki Minaj doing enough research to say that vaccine misinformation is being spread by these 4 little words. Do your own research. And they go into that phrase and how it came from the 1850s or whatever when it came to the smallpox vaccine. So they're trying to make a case as best they can that doing your own research hurts vaccine information, correct information. But here's the thing, CNN. Why do you use Nicki Minaj as an example? Because you think that people who are doing their own research Real people who are looking to do their own research are skimming Nicki Minaj's Twitter feed, 140 characters. That's not research. Okay, New York Times, they're another left-leaning article, and this article actually did a little bit better of a job, and they also titled it as an opinion piece. Let's dive in. This article is, "Don't go down the rabbit hole. Critical thinking, as we're taught to do it, isn't helping in the fight against misinformation." So, misinformation rides the greased algorithmic rails of powerful social media platforms and travels at velocities in volumes that make it nearly impossible to stop. That alone makes information warfare an unfair fight for the average internet user. The average internet user, is also surfing Nicki Minaj's Twitter feed. I digress. Let's get back to it. Mr. Caulfield argues that the deck is stacked even further against us, that the way we're taught from a young age to evaluate and think critically about information is fundamentally flawed and out of step with the chaos of the current internet. I agree. I actually really agree with that statement. We're taught that in order to protect ourselves from bad information, we need to deeply engage with the stuff that washes up in front of us. He suggested that the dominant mode of media literacy, if kids are getting any at all, is that you'll get imperfect information and then all you have to do is use reasoning to fix it somehow. But in reality, that strategy can completely backfire. It can backfire, not that it will. It can. Okay, so I agree with what he's saying. He's basically roundabout ways of saying that critical thinking today is not what real critical thinking is. So when we're saying that critical thinking is actually not helping in the fight against misinformation, we need to put this in their proper categories, because critical thinking is critical thinking. It's just what it is. If you're doing critical thinking, you're actually doing critical thinking, and critical thinking is good. The critical thinking he's talking about is not critical thinking. Driving is dangerous. Right? And I'll give you all the examples of people who drove and they died. That's why I'm going to say driving is dangerous. But that was not good driving. That was bad driving. So they should say bad research or bad critical thinking at the very least, or just give it a completely different category. And the last thing I'm going to say is a quote from Rene DiResta. He's a research manager at Stanford Internet Observatory. He says that science is a consensus building process. A process of consensus building, not something that we know the facts of immediately the moment that someone wants to be Googling for them. Critical thinking is a process not unlike what DiResta was saying is a consensus building process. It's something where we come to refine the edge of our own intelligence. We come to find out our own weaknesses so we can highlight them, highlight the weaknesses. That becomes a strength of ours. If we know our weaknesses, our blind spots, our biases, then we can highlight them, we can bring them fully into the light, and then we can become a more well-balanced viewer of the news. So I say research is good. Critical thinking is good. We should be doing more of it. If we're not, then all we're doing is looking for sanctioned authoritative CNN, New York Times, Fox News, whatever. You're looking for sanctioned authority to give you your news so you don't have to do your own research. You don't have to critically think. If what they say makes enough sense to you in the moment, because you're doing it day by day, most people who watch news, they do it day by day. If it makes enough sense in the moment, then you let it go and you move on. You see, what people are looking for in news is not 100% the facts. That is the first thing that needs to be understood. People who come to the news, they're not 100% looking for the facts. They are looking for something that moves them, informs them about the world, and moves them forward a little bit in decision making that they can make in the future. That holistic view of why people come to news is probably the best thing that most news could come to understand if they want to offer medicine as news. That's what I'm trying to do with Waking Infinity News, and I appreciate you all coming to this microdose. I do these microdoses trying to keep them a little bit shorter. This one I probably failed as well. Go over to benjosephstewart.com, become a member, get access to the deeper dives. In this deeper dive, I'm going to talk about borax being a nanotechnology detoxer from the body. You're going to want to hear this one. With that being said, I already told you to go over to benjosephstewart.com, become a member. You can also go to Patreon and get all my deeper dives as well. I'm going to talk about a message that I got from a Patreon member saying that I'm tiptoeing around NWO and World Economic Forum topics when I used to rail against them back in the Esoteric Agenda days. I'm going to comment on that in the deeper dive. In that deeper dive, I'm also going to go deeper in all the things that I can't talk about on YouTube. Some things that would be called misinformation about vaccines. I can't wait to see you all over there. I'll catch you guys next time on Waking Infinity Microdose.